I think I made 200 shillings.
From the first sale of rabbits?
Yes. I think I sold 80 shillings each. But I ended up with 200 shillings.
Danson, how are you?
Fine.
Thank you so much for heeding the call. But you're not an easy bird to catch.
Really? And they have really... I don't know, mimi nimekutafuta.
Come on. How is the year unfolding?
Well, we thank God. It is unfolding well.
You're a celebrated businessman, locally and internationally. And I want just you to take me down where it all began for you. Where is Danson born and bred?
I'm born and bred in Nyandarua. Although I hear, I was born in Kajiado. Then when I was some days old, my parents went to Nyandarua. That's where I'm born and raised. Yes.
Where does your business mind start being cultivated?
My real experience with the transactions was I was growing up and my parents thought we need to get this young man busy, keep him busy so that he's not involved in other things, funny things, just like any other normal child. And so they got me rabbits.
At a young age?
Yes, I think 8 years. Nikaletewa sungura.
Mmoja.
As have been male and female because they bred. And they produced the smaller ones, many other rabbits, many, and they kept reproducing, and my job was feed them and keep them clean, environment clean. We could call them pets, other people would call them delicacies, and other people would call them commodities. So initially, they started off as pets. And so I developed this very close attachment with these pets, rabbits. They were, California white?
Yeah.
That was the breed. White, red eyes. Completely white. So they grew and I'd feed them, and sometimes we'd, I was happy taking care, protecting them from harm. One of the biggest harm or risks that face rabbits includes ants, the safari ants. They can really devour these things if you're not careful. So keeping them safe and clean and feeding them until they were many. And so ultimately they were too many, and I realized as they increased, that meant more work for me. That's when the concept of delicacy, rabbit is a delicacy, initially started showing up. And so here we had, and some cousins and uncles of mine were like, oh, this is yummy, they are very delicious. And so we started consuming them. Like every weekend, we'd slaughter a rabbit.
You'd slaughter your pet.
Oh my goodness. Imagine. Now, let's say at the moment of decisioning that we are going to slaughter these, of course the first ones were hard. It was very hard. I remember, I think it was my auntie who slaughtered the first one. And when I tasted it and it was delicious, it just started becoming a delicacy. You see? And so now it was a balance between now we feed so that you keep this number within something that I could manage, manageable levels, but feeding them, because the more the mouths and stomachs, mouths lead to stomachs. And stomachs do not just, they have somewhere else, they lead to something else. So it's just a cycle. So a lot of work. So now, I realized then, because sometimes it would like give birth to 12 at a go. Imagine. Now those 12, after a couple of months now, imagine maybe 8 of them are female, they would give birth to another 12. See, this thing is just multiplying.
Exactly.
And we are eating, of course, in a month probably there is 4 Saturdays. So you could not keep up with that rate of reproduction as you consume. And so that's when now this delicacy, I started now the idea of becoming a commodity developed. Because now I had to look for a way out. I could not just give them out. We started selling. And that's when it became a command. Now I sold the first 2. I think I made 200 shillings.
From the first sale of rabbits?
Yes. I think I sold 80 shillings each. But I ended up with 200 shillings. Maybe I give one as a discount. At a discount. And so I ended up now with some money. And then, let me tell you what happened. The 200 shillings in the village. And you are probably 9 years old. 9, 10. What would you do with 200 shillings in the village?
You'd summon
I'd
summon my chief.
You did summon your chief. Me, what happened? My appetite summoned me. My appetite summoned me. And there was this, there was a shop, some shopping center called Huhoini, that I ended up buying mandazis. Like really, you know those mandazis for 1 bob. Suddenly I was like, I would buy mandazis and the big ones, you know, huge ones. And then those days, the mandazis had content inside. It was not just air. Like it was loaded. It was like, you know, there is some kama mkono ya mtu. Iko na nyama. You know. So, and that's when I realized business is good. You know? Because now I saw how to convert the rabbits into
cash. And this cash
mandazis.
Has brought mandazis.
And mandazis, of course, would give me some level of, you know, the good feeling, satisfaction, and so forth. Well, of course, after that, I ended up in high school. I could not keep up with the Holamawe, with the rabbits enterprise, but there were many. I had many rabbits, and it felt good. Owning rabbits, you know, you feel like, you know, livestock. It was like livestock. And the more they got, the sense of, actually, let's honestly speaking, beyond the money, that feeling of responsibility was such a motivation, and that is something, that is a sense that I carry to date. I love responsibilities. That's why I would take on a big project. If the governments of Africa asked me to digitize revenue collection across Africa, from Cairo to cities like Nairobi, Joburg, to the remotest of villages, like Subukia, and further Garowe to Buktu, wherever else, I would take up such challenges just for 2 things. One is I love responsibilities, and the bigger they get, I am happy about that, and getting things to grow and become better, of course. This is actually a statement of who we are and who I am. This is an Innovator of the Year award, East Africa, CNBC. This is the group that also has Forbes Rights in Africa, you know.
Exactly.
So this is one of those awards that I treasure most. I went to Strathmore for a business course, and then a 1-year course, then got admitted to Kenyatta University, where I studied telecommunication and information technology. But at KU I did a bit of, now that's when I was torn between, that's when I was doing real self-discovery. I thought probably I thought about social, I thought there were a lot of social ills. I was not happy about a lot of things around the society, I mean the community around, and I thought probably I should get into civil society, try to change things. I was in an environmental club. I actually enrolled for environmental course because I really cared. I do care about the environment. I do. But then I realized it was just in me. But the challenge was, I didn't find challenge in that. and that was a passion. So I shifted course from environmental to telecommunication, TIT, telecoms and IT, now IT course. And so I ended up pursuing my IT. But and still environment remains close to my heart, so I support environmental courses to date. I love good environment, I care about environment, and that is something that does not require any education or courses or whatever. So that's how I decided, how I made the decision to shift from that course to ICT. But ICT I thought is a good challenge, and there's a likelihood I could probably generate some revenues here, some money in future. And I also started a business in campus. Those guys who are in KU then, 2000, early 2000, sure they experienced that place at the student center that had a media library or a movie library where I would digitize lecturers' notes. And because students skip classes, and you'd come, you get them in discs you buy, or you rent, or I print out for you. So I had the various units. I just speak the handwritten notes. I had people who would type and convert them into soft, and then label them nicely and place them at the library, the movie library. I also had, so there were educational material. I also had movies on Christianity and Islam, and religious movies. And I also had a lot of entertainment, and but core to, I mean, the major product I had there was lecturers' notes.
Exactly. The ones
So it's
that
a media
you
library.
digitize.
Yes.
The business mind follows on. Now from rabbits,
Yes.
you're already digitizing notes.
Yes, and by the way, in campus I experienced some politics. You know, people generally have a problem with, if you do something new, you start something new and flourish. Not everyone. There are some people who will always feel and ask why not them, and instead of starting, they want to fight you, bring you down. So I experienced that in campus. I mean, the student union sometimes would summon me. In fact, I see sometimes some assemblies summoning me, and I just recall and I relate with what was happening while I was in campus. Like, I'm doing a good, legit business, but they feel I should go and answer to them. And they're just students like myself. We have like 4 years there each. Them, they will probably would live with a first class. Probably me, I would live with a second and money. But they summon me because, you know, I have seen that is a common phenomenon across social strata. Like in students who do that. I went through. I actually, I don't know if to say I ever, though this was, I requested the speaker of KUSA to allow me to address the, as you know, there is an assembly in the student union. They have a parliament of sorts. I remember them doing something they called a moderated caucus, because there were student leaders who were really disturbing me, and I went there to articulate issues. And so the whole thing plays out here, only that out here I'm summoned. You know, but usually why I always go is because it's good. It's how it should be, and so I hold no ill feeling about all these things. I just know it's part of business.
Exactly. Wow. Of course, you continue. You finish campus.
Yes, and I decide now. I want to cause something big to be. You know. I wanted to cause something big to be. And here I am, I'm out of... By the way, let me tell you what happened. When I left campus, these guys went on strike. I don't know over what, and they burnt the student center. And so the remaining had left was burnt down. Imagine. Okay, you burnt my business. Some students burnt student center, and there was razed to the ground. And of course, when you are out, it's hard to manage. So I get out here and I decide I want more responsibilities and I want to cause something bigger to be. And so I thought I should start some big e-commerce platform. I had thought of starting a big e-commerce platform. And when at it, we realized we could not do that because we did not have a digital payment. There was a need for payments processing. Then 2008, 2009, we did not have. 2008, we did not have any payment, online payment services.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I thought I should start. And so we started the online payment gateway, that's JamboPay, and I also started WebTribe the same year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we started. And from there, the job was just looking at, my work was looking for what the challenges, trying to address the challenges that that faced customers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe institutions, organizations, and we kept growing.
Mm-hmm.
We've kept at it. Of course, the business has since evolved into, we have real enterprise payments processing.
Mm-hmm. Did you at first get the capital to start?
No.
Uh-huh.
Well, I had the capital, and the capital was me. I had myself.
Uh-huh.
You know, by the way, and that's why I keep, I tell friends of mine, you really do not know what you're missing, because you probably 90-something% of the capital that you need. So I was there, I was alive,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a plan, a mental plan,
Mm-hmm.
which I put down on paper on what I needed to do. And I started in a cyber cafe because then I thought what I needed was an office. Office for me was a desk,
Mm-hmm.
a computer, and internet connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked into this cyber at Viewpark Towers.
Cyber cafe.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Viewpark Towers cyber cafe, and these guys
Where
they're
your
called the
office
Maxport. Yeah, I'll tell you about that actually.
Uh-huh.
So the Maxport, they're called Maxport. I'm forever grateful to these guys. Like Benja, they were the proprietors of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I rented one computer for 4,500 shillings a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where JamboPay started. So I would come every morning to that. I just changed the operating system, the password,
Uh-huh.
and the username, so that was just reserved for me full time.
Uh-huh.
You would not have other people. Of course, other people would come to the cyber and use others, but mine was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we started. After some times, we took the second one,
Mm-hmm.
and we did this partition. It was actually, our first office was a couple of meters,
Mm-hmm.
not more than 2 meters, maybe 3 meters, because it's just two computers that we just did some structure so that we could keep our files safe or away from guys, other cyber cafe users.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we started. And I did my initial vision or mission. I initially meant and intended to become the best payment service provider from Africa,
Uh-huh.
out of Africa, for Africa. And even my first letter to the Central Bank of Kenya, I wrote in a cyber, requesting for their guidance and regulation. I think those guys deserve a clap.
Uh-huh.
Kabisa. Because they listened, they invited me to do presentation at the NPS, National Payment Systems.
Mm-hmm.
Then we did not have laws. And we started off there. And but still at it, as we interacted with the CBK, I was interacting with the users, customers, potential customers, listening what they would want, and partners, potential partners like banks and so forth. I did all that, and then at the same time we are developing this solution.
Mm-hmm.
And we grew from there. We took, eventually we ended up occupying the cyber. Cyber occupied as small as not the entire wing or floor. And we ended up taking the neighbors, paying off neighbors so that they would leave. We kept growing until we took that floor.
You paid off Benja?
No, I think
the cyber?
No. What they did is we just then also mobile internet was coming, was showing up, and so we had a bit of the cyber business was going down. So ultimately I kept rising as I'm the cyber main customer. And we moved to, we occupied the entire cyber somehow. And we took the next office and the next. Then there was a college that was called, I think it was Rochester. There was a college that was also on that floor. They moved, and we also took their space. And so eventually we ended up growing. We kept growing. By the way, we kept growing from that one computer into the entire floor, and the next one, and so we never moved out of the cyber.
You just sort
Jamo
of...
Pay is still at the cyber.
You sort of... you took over the cyber?
Yes, and expanded and grew, and we still at the cyber here in Kenya. Of course, we have since continued to grow and went to other countries and started business. We've grown from the cyber here to now 6 countries.
Wow, in Africa?
Yes, and but we still have, and I feel we still harbor, and we must not move away from that cyber mentality. This is an award that we won, a Business Africa Entrepreneur Award, as you can see, from the Choiseul Institute. This is a French body that highlights entrepreneurs that are remarkable, doing some good things across Africa.
Of course, it had to be done, so...
It could be anyone, but for that time was myself.
It was you, eh?
It was me.
So basically, where your offices are as at now is the same place where you used to rent a computer for 4,500 a month?
Yes, I still at the cyber.
You're still at the cyber?
Yes.
When do you make your first million?
Well, that's a good question. Certainly not the first. I remember the first 6 months. Let me tell you, there was pesa ikuji. In fact, I had printed the first major initiative was printing business cards. You know, your business card, the size of it was it was 7 shillings a business card. Was it 7 or 9? Between 7 and 9 shillings. That was my first major investment, and I think that's the best investment you can have. And so I issued I kept giving people a lot of business cards. Of course, it had a telephone. We had bought had a line, a telephone number. You know, the handsets that had SIM card from Telco. And people are not calling. Until sometimes I would call it myself. Like, I'm giving so many business cards and guys are not calling. So we did some training, a bit of training. Trained a couple of, I actually trained one old man in ICT to complement, because we did not start making money as a payment service or a technology company. And you need to support even the 4,500 somewhere. And since I have IT, I would just walk to his office up, 21st floor, train him. And but the first million was probably in our second year.
Second year in operation. How was the moment for you?
I thought, this is a lot of money. You're not getting finished. And so it was like, but you see now, you have office now. That's when we were growing kidogo. And we had to make good use of the cash. Like, you are balancing between, and I had convinced a few friends to join me. And so, from campus. So there was that balancing act. And eventually it started moving, you're removing the money you are paying. And suddenly I'm like, wow, this money could get off, it would be just done with this money, itaisha. So yes, I think it was in our second or third, was it probably our second, intact 1M, probably our second or third year.
Second or third year.
You know, Sunday, or let's say Saturday evening or afternoon, you are at home, you have washed your clothes. Zote, umeosha vyombo, you have washed your utensils, your clothes, your house is clean, and in your fridge you got chapo. Gona chapo kama, at least go na chapo kama 10.
You're a fan of chapatis?
Yeah, food. Unfortunately, my weakness.
You're a food?
Usiambia watu. So, I have, that's the feeling. Is the same, actually it's a similar feeling. Because you know, of course, hizi nguo utaziva within a few weeks. Utakuwa zimekuwa chafu. Hiyo chafu utakuwa umeikula, so itaisha eventually. But you got that feeling. You can even pick a book, a novel, and you're reading. That feeling, you know, Saturday.
It's the same one.
It's the same feeling you get if you have a million bob.
And of course now the workforce comes in, you're employing people, you're creating opportunities. How does it make you feel then?
And then was like we are trying to make ends meet for each one of us. By the way, we would make very little and share. Like if a customer pays us 25,000 and we have 5 of us,
Each goes on.
5,000. And I would like to keep us going. I was in touch with the landlords of all of them because we had to keep them like waiting. I would tell them our plans, you know. So yeah, it was like that. Yeah, so we kept growing. It felt ultimately, I think I never got to enjoy or get to feel the joy of view it differently, of getting people more, employing more people, until when I got to get defined roles. I have, we have finance, we have HR, we have admin and everything else, R&D, all those things.
Exactly.
That's where now I would look and I started meeting people who I did not know in the organization. Like I meet some guys, they are branded, they are wearing branded like t-shirts or clothing, Jamopi branded, and I don't know them. You know, that's when now like, okay, here we got something.
You.
I remember there were these other guys who are sort of harsh to me. I'm trying to get into a lift, and they are like blocking the lift from, the closing the door, and I'm telling them I need to move, and they are like, Buddha, relax, they don't know me, I don't know them. Me, I'm not branded, but I see these guys, they are wearing, all of them, German t-shirts, and then so when I started thinking, okay, here we go, and then people started getting families. So sometimes I'm invited for a wedding, for a colleague's wedding, and so forth. So that's when I started feeling. You see here we are supporting livelihoods.
Exactly.
And so that feeling is always very fulfilling. But I do have a lot of times I experience. One of the motivation is I would get to the office early. I sit at the corner, and then I would see guys coming. By the way, we run shifts. Jamopi has always run 2 shifts, like not closing. And but in the morning, I would see guys coming in, and everyone taking their desks, and that also got me feeling good, because somehow I felt I have inspired these guys. I've inspired them to come and join me in, towards a vision that I have inspired them to working towards a common vision. That for me was and has always been very fulfilling. And then, but the getting more people is not always, sometimes it's good, but as an entrepreneur, as you learn about enterprising, is about building value. And so it is not always how many, you cannot, even if you got to do it sustainably. But it is good if you can keep building opportunities so that more people keep getting opportunities to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any business you do or you undertake, you ni kimungu. Yani you are just bahati shining. You are just being, it's by luck if you're successful running a business without having figured out or BMC'd your business. Things like what your mission is, your key partners, your key activities, what your value propositions is, what your relationship with your customers would look like, how you segment your customers, your channels on how you get to your customers, key resources that you need, your key costs, and things like cost structure, revenue streams, and ultimately impact. A lot of times, guys, imagine maybe the impact is 1M in your account. That's not, a lot of it is not that. Impact is in what else? For example, for me, the biggest impact I felt is probably in the employment we've created, the business opportunities you opened, the costs with cost cutting or efficiencies we introduced to our customers, the services we have rendered out there in very, very remote areas as a result of use of our technologies, stuff like that.
When does your first big break come?
My first big break in business or in life?
In business.
In business comes in when I decided to get into a cyber and make that my office. That was my first big break, for sure. Had I not done that, we would not be where we are.
Exactly.
That I decided to start with what I had. That was my first big. In fact, there is not a bigger jump like quantum I've ever done or made. The others that would happen much later, but that was the biggest. But as we progressed, I kept getting clients. We had media houses. A lot of media houses were using JamboPay, and by the time we were actually getting maybe noticed out here, probably JamboPay had like 1,000 clients. Because I recall, like when you did the first project for government for one of the cities here, we then by then had we were how many 6 years old, or so, and I had over 1,000 clients.
Wow.
So really, if you look at that, it's not like that was not the big thing. Only that was one of the most challenging projects, and there are many others out there, and all of them matter to us and matter to me, just like the biggest that we got.
Exactly. Now, over time, what do you specialize in as JamboPay?
So what we realized, we specialized in electronic payments, like helping businesses, organizations and individuals to transact cashless.
So what do you feel is the biggest strength of your company right now?
Our biggest strength is in the people and the spirit. We are an agile company. I'll give you an example. We actually can recreate. We can create a product. We have. Last year we did the JamboPay market. At the thick of things, in the thick of pandemic, is when we deployed that product, and it's up and running and being in use. The JamboPay market, where you can buy stuff online, buy fresh produce straight from farmers, and get them delivered to your home anywhere in Nairobi. So building not just the system, the value chain. These farmers getting to go to their farms and engage them and train them, working out the logistics of how we deliver these products. All these things is what constitutes that product, and that was deployed until we transacted. So that is adaptability. So I think in the experience we got is also some big strengths that JamboPay has. You can imagine we've processed hundreds of billions of shillings for over the last few years, and we are doing that even now as we speak. We are processing payments, and we also have built a lot of relationships, and relationships do not happen overnight.
Exactly.
But I think the biggest asset, the biggest strength that the company possesses is in its people, and the experience that we got, and those relationships that we've built around our technologies.
Exactly. That begs the question then, what is your goal?
My goal is Danton.
As JamboPay?
JamboPay's goal is to simplify lives through innovative solutions. We would like to look at any challenge that is faced out there that touches on transactions, simplify that, and add a lot of value. Look at it from a customer's perspective and try to simplify life by giving innovative financial solutions. Yes.
And as Danson?
Now, as Danson, for me, is if I can inspire the business to grow to even greater heights that are bigger than I could possibly imagine, and also inspire other entrepreneurs to not only tap into the JamboPay ecosystem and build strong, meaningful brands that are impactful, but also to transform lives of our customers. So by bringing services closer to people, giving new services to people, doing stuff that transform lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you foster corporate relations, or better yet, how do you make corporates trust you?
for us.
Uh-huh.
I think the first thing is we've remained at it for 12 years. Imagine.
Mm-hmm.
12 years is how many days?
That is 12 times 365.
Yeah, it's a lot. We've been there. We've not tried to do wheat farming.
Uh-huh.
You know, we've not tried to do transport. I've not tried to do something else. I've just stuck to. I got to provide technology, and that's one. And so consistency. Number two, we've done technology that we given the best until it worked. It has worked again and again and again.
Uh-huh.
And so to the next customer, they look at that customer, it worked. And we do not just do that because of it's the fun of it. We stand for something. And that's what we stand for, includes adding value to every customer. But I think the biggest is we got good technologies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we also got good technologies that we put into use again and again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, in your platform, what are some of the measures you're taking probably to ensure that there are no fraudsters and stuff?
We have tools that are supposed to detect and deter and record any instances of attempts. And we also work under guidelines and policies that are supposed to be supposed to just help us try to overcome that. However, cybersecurity is not something you do and relax and say you're done. It is something that is a continuous process. So we keep active at it. We are members of certain groupings and consortiums and stakeholder forums that are just geared towards sharing and collaborating around cybersecurity. But I think the biggest is we also support certain groups that or initiatives that are local that are basically good or ethical hackers, like getting people who are around here that wants to try something like hacking. We sometimes engage them so that we can identify our vulnerabilities. But cybersecurity is not something that we could. I cannot lie to you that we are hack proof. No one is, you know.
Exactly.
You know anyone who is hack proof?
Not at all.
Maybe God. But no one else out here is. We have to continuously keep safeguarding our tools. I mean our systems, our data, and everything else. So it's basically policy, tools, and being actively involved internally and externally on what happens around cybersecurity.
Exactly.
Yes.
Are there any corporate hurdles that you've had to sort of jump or face?
Oh my goodness. Ask that question again. Yes. We got a lot of business, by the way, is challenges. Sometimes personal, sometimes organizational. Some of them are internal, others are external. And some will come in forms that you'd, if you knew the shape of a challenge and the size of a challenge, it's no longer, sometimes they're surprising. Inakutokea tu. You're looking at it and it looks like a mammoth or a big caterpillar or something else like a giant, you know. And it has no shape and you have to like figure out what this is. So I face challenges that are good. Some of them are you know, we got political challenges I faced. I have well, we could say there are many challenges that we faced. Yes. Entrepreneurs also come in various grades or levels of risk taking. I think mine is a level that is not the highest, but quite high. So I take risks, like huge risks. And I would go for any opportunity. And by opportunity means trying to resolve or solve a challenge anywhere. And in so doing, you face challenges, and some of them are big risks. And for example, you know, I went to Somalia. Imagine, business is okay here. Africa is good, and there is all these other countries that I could go to, but I thought, why not? And why should we forget that there are people there also that we could help through transformative technologies. And I boarded a plane here at GKI and went looking for opportunities there, and eventually ended up in Puntland. But Puntland is safe, but other environments were not. And I spent weeks there, sometimes stranded and able to come back home. You know, and that environment, sometimes there are risks. You could sleep at night and there are some gunshots, or explosions, and so forth. So those are risks that are faced, you know, and at some points in some of these missions, that expeditions that are business, I would feel like my life was at risk. But even here, by virtue of the nature of the business that we are involved in, we're basically the guys who would come in and digitize the cash and remove the middleman. Like, just build a pipe from the person's paying to the person's receiving and cut all these middlemen. Of course, that gives you or puts you at a point where you are at huge risk, considerable risk. Exactly. And so a lot of it has happened. And sometimes there has been danger, for sure.
You receive threats or something?
You get threatened. You get in line of threat whenever you go against the grain, and more so if it's the hard ones, the tough ones, and so forth. Some of these things, that's how it is. So yes, I have gone through challenging moments, and some moments where I have felt threatened. And not just felt, but I have been. Yeah.
Exactly.
We sometimes are at I have a couple of government and public sector bodies that are my clients. And so if you're in public sector, you must be subject to scrutiny. And sometimes the scrutiny could come from any stakeholder. Stakeholders in public sector includes the executive, there is of course the judiciary, sometimes the legislature. I have been to the various houses. I've been to Senate, I've been summoned to Senate, I've gone to parliamentary accounts, National Assembly, local assemblies, and all other arms of government. And so the only other informal is another arm of government that is not usually spoken, or outlined, like is not formal. The politicians, they have a way of, and so sometimes you are in line. I've faced politics, and politics are played a lot in the podiums. So that has also been something that I had to accept, and we face it, and we are okay with that.
When you look at Jambo Pay, and especially what you're doing as a company, where do you see the Kenyan fintech space in the next 5 or so years?
I think we are, in 5 years, the Kenyan fintech will have evolved. There's going to be a bit of new players that will emerge, or new ways of getting the same fintech done, or the same transactions or payments or financial services delivered and consumed. And there is Jambo Pay definitely going to also be listed. We are going to be listing in a couple of years, so that we give an opportunity to our supporters and Kenyans and other people beyond Kenya to own and be part of the growth of Jambo Pay, the journey of Jambo Pay. And I also think some multinationals will have channels that will have moved from traditional channels to new channels. Social media will be fintech. Fintech will be embedded in social media like this. Sometimes you will not even know. You know the way you have the like button on some social media platforms. payments could end up being so ingrained as to appear like features within other bigger platforms.
Mm-hmm.
That's a trend I think could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also going to be a little bit more of collaborations. And collaborations, banks will morph into the tech area, tech space,
Mm-hmm.
and techs will morph into banking. And so there is going to be sometimes very little, you just see like the line between the banks and fintechs will almost not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Finally, encourage someone.
Friends, viewers, listeners, be encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
For you are sons and daughters of the Almighty God, who is all able, all knowing, and all loving, and His grace is so large that you cannot deplete it. It is just sufficient for you as well, just it has been for me. So be encouraged in whatever you do. May it be at work, at your business that is young, or your idea that will be becoming a business soon, or your business that is going through a rough time, or it's whatever talent that you got that you're exercising. I know there are artists and so forth. Be encouraged. Just keep at it. Keep trying a new way of doing it, getting to innovate and collaborate, and let's keep talking. You can talk to me and everyone else who is around you about the challenges that you're going through, because talking, when you talk it out, when you write it out, and then you pray it out, it is almost solved. You just need to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Karibu.
I feel inspired.
Mm.